The basis of the argument in observation. As with Paley's design argument, way 3 is a posteriori and inductive, so it's based on observation. It is based on the particular observation that all things we see in the universe are contingent. They are moved, changed, and caused. From the observation of contingency, Aquinas concluded that something must exist necessarily. Aquinas' way 3, the argument from contingency and necessity. The argument has two parts. In the first part, the core of the argument is that everything is contingent. Then at some point, there was nothing. No contingent being is everlasting, so there must have been a time where nothing existed. If there was a time when nothing existed, then nothing would exist now, because out of nothing can come anything. But of course, vast numbers of contingent things now exist. In the second part, Aquinas rejects the idea that there may be an infinite series of cause-necessary beings. That would also be absurd, because then there would be no ultimate cause of that series. So there must be an uncaused necessary being who sustains all caused necessary beings and all contingent beings. This is God. Criticisms from Hume and Russell. Criticism 1. Russell. Way 3 commits the fallacy of composition. This is the fallacy of inferring that something is true of the whole from the fact that it's true of part of the whole, or of every part of the whole. Russell aims this criticism at way 2, but also it applies to way 3, which goes from 1. Everything in the universe is contingent, 2. The universe as a whole is contingent. This is fallacious because we can claim that 1. Everything in the universe is contingent, but 2. The universe as a whole is necessary. In defense of way 3, Bruce Reichenbach rejects this claim on the grounds that way 3 resembles the form of the argument, the wall is built from bricks, so the wall is brick, which is not fallacious. Way 3 says, the universe is built from contingent things, so the universe is contingent. This may be wrong, but the form of the argument is not a fallacy. Criticism 2. Hume and Russell. The words necessary being are meaningless. Hume's version. Having already rejected the claim of the ontological argument that God exists is logically true, Hume now rejects Aquinas' claim in way 3 that God is a necessary being, because he thinks this is the same claim. However, this is not a valid criticism of Aquinas. For a start, Aquinas rejects the ontological argument, so where he refers in way 3 to God as a necessary being, he means that God has metaphysical necessity and not logical necessity. Aquinas means that the existence of contingent things requires the existence of being, whose necessity is from itself, and who causes all contingent beings and all cause necessary beings to exist. Criticism 3. Hume. The universe itself may exist necessarily. Aquinas accepts this, but argues that the universe could only exist necessarily if it was brought into existence by an uncaused necessary being. Who is right here depends on what you think is the most probable explanation for the universe. A necessarily existent mind or necessarily existent matter. Criticism 4. Russell. The universe exists as an unexplainable brute fact. Against Russell, if the universe is unexplainable, it seems very odd that science works on the opposite principle. Strengths and weaknesses of Aquinas' argument. These are fairly evenly balanced, aside from 3 criticisms and responses above. Criticism 5. Some object that there could be a group of necessary beings rather than just one. However, Aquinas argues that unless there is one being who contains within itself the reason for its own existence, then the existence of anything is inexplicable. Criticism 6. Some object that there could be a group of uncaused necessary beings, but Occam's razor can be used to argue that this multiplies entities unnecessarily. Criticism 7. Some object that there could be an infinite regress of contingent beings, with no need for a first necessary being. But A, this would still not explain why there is something rather than nothing, and B, although we can have mathematical infinities, we have no evidence that an infinite past sequence can exist in the real world. Criticism 8. Some object that the universe itself may exist eternally and uncaused. If so, no one wonders why. No scientific cosmological theories can explain why there is something rather than nothing, whereas the idea of God explains exactly that. Some might still object that there could be an infinite cycle of expanding and contracting universes, but even here, some theories suggest that there was a first expansion, so there is room for God in neither scenario. The status of Aquinas' argument as a proof. It cannot be a proof in the logical sense because inductive arguments deal with improbabilities rather than proofs. Jerry Hughes suggests that we should redefine proof to include the idea of overwhelming probability. Nobody has observed quarks, for example, yet their existence is overwhelmingly probable. Equally, nobody has observed God, yet transcendent God is overwhelmingly probable as the cause of the universe. However probable it might be, the argument does not convince atheists. As Hare might say, it depends on whether you have a theistic or deistic or atheistic blick about the universe. For modern believers, the third way could give the support of reason and philosophy to what they already believe through faith, that God exists as a metaphysical necessary being. The value of Aquinas' argument for religious faith. It does show faith to be reasonable. Anybody with faith can understand the evidence used by the third way. However, some believers will not accept Aquinas' argument. For example, Kant and Barth. For Aquinas, faith in God is supported by reason, but faith does not come from reasoned arguments but through God's grace. Is Aquinas justified in assuming that necessary being of his philosophical argument is the same as the personal and moral God of Christianity with whom one can have a relationship?